After jumping into the water for a swim, a group of friends realizes that they are unable to climb back up onto the yacht as they had forgotten to put the ladder down. The story introduces us to a group of close friends consisting of Emily, her boyfriend Johnny, her husband James, Jackie, Lauren, and Michelle. They frequently travel together and document their adventures on camera. While on the yacht, Johnny, who appears to be noticeably tipsy, starts spinning around with his camera, causing him to lose his balance and fall off a cliff. Emily, her husband James, and their daughter Sarah went to Mexico City to celebrate Jackie's 30th birthday on Johnny's new yacht. While her friends rush towards the yacht, Emily, who has developed a fear of water due to her father's drowning while sailing, takes her time and wears a life jacket. With her husband's encouragement, Emily overcomes her fear and climbs aboard. The group discovers Johnny in the cabin with his new girlfriend, Michelle. They set sail, and Jackie and Lauren inquire about how Johnny was able to afford such a luxurious boat, but he avoids giving a clear answer. Emily and James put their daughter to bed and leave a walkie-talkie in her cabin to monitor her movements. The group is having a great time, with friends drinking, dancing, and enjoying the warm sun. Michelle suggests they go for a swim, and everyone eagerly jumps into the water, except for Emily, who stays on the boat with Johnny to check on her daughter Sarah. While in the cabin, Johnny opens up to Emily, admitting that he regrets his past behavior and wants to have kids too. Emily, who is content with her husband, tries to steer the conversation in a different direction and encourages Johnny to return to the deck. Meanwhile, the others continue to enjoy themselves, with Jackie diving down to retrieve a seashell for Lauren and Michelle flirting with James. Emily walks around the deck with Johnny and confides in him about her fear of passing on her phobia to Sarah. In a moment of playfulness, Johnny picks up Emily and jumps into the water with her, despite her protests and cries. This triggers a panic attack in Emily, and she relives the traumatic memories of her father's death. The friends attempt to calm her down, but she is unable to hear them. It is then that they realize that Johnny forgot to lower the ladder before jumping into the water. They are now stranded in the open sea with no way to climb back onto the boat, except for little Sarah, who is still on board. James tries to comfort Emily by humming a lullaby, while the rest of the group struggles to climb back onto the boat by kicking off the water. However, they fail to climb as the boat's sides are too high. Michelle, who is exhausted and cold, clings onto an inflatable dolphin in desperation. Johnny requests to use the inflatable dolphin to try and climb back onto the boat. However, his attempts is of no use, as the toy is too slippery and deflates quickly. The group notices a flag waving on the stern of the boat, and Johnny tries to grab hold of it. After several failed attempts, he manages to grab the flag, but it proves to be unstable and cannot hold his weight. Emily regains her composure and they pause to think about their next move. Michelle becomes hysterical once again, fearing that there might be sharks in the water. Johnny checks the water but finds no evidence of any sharks. However, they all know that it's only a matter of time before they become prey. The group begins to blame Johnny for their predicament, and tensions rise. Johnny comes up with a rescue idea to use their belongings and tie them together with a rope to throw onto the boat. While they are executing this plan, they noticed a speedboat passing by. Despite their attempts to signal for help, the passing boat's passengers thought they were having fun and don't understand their situation, and wave their hands in response. The group must go back to Johnny's plan and use the knife found in Jackie's jacket to cut their clothes into pieces and knit a rope out of them. Jackie attempts to use it to climb up, but, unfortunately, the rope snaps, and Jackie falls back into the water. Jackie, feeling desperate for a way out, decides to take matters into his own hands and uses a knife to punch a hole through the side of the boat to climb upstairs. Johnny becomes hysterical and tries to stop him, fearing that he will damage the boat. During the commotion, Johnny accidentally stabs Jackie in the stomach. The situation quickly gets out of control. The radio broadcasts the sound of Sarah crying hysterically as she wakes up and realizes her parents are missing. Due to the severity of Jackie's wound and the lack of medical attention, he dies slowly and painfully. Michelle, weakened by fatigue, drifts away from the group and ultimately succumbs to her exhaustion. Despite Johnny's efforts to save her, it is too late. Jackie, struggling and gasping, attempts to make a joke, recalling their previous trip and wishing for a camera. His final memory is of Lauren, whom he remembers as beautiful the last time they met. Jackie falls silent, and his body goes limp in Lauren's arms, causing her to break down in tears. James's nerves are frayed this time, and he turns on Johnny, accusing him of putting the boat's value ahead of their friends' lives. Emily tries to calm her husband, but his outburst causes him to vomit. Johnny confesses to his friends that he had been deceitful about the yacht and his financial situation. It is revealed that Johnny had borrowed the yacht from his boss without permission, posing as the owner to impress women like Michelle. He had been trying to hide the fact that he had not accomplished anything in his life. With the realization of his actions leading to the death of his best friend, Johnny breaks down in tears. Lauren confesses her love for Jackie, and Emily persuades Johnny to let his friend's body go. As time passes, the exhausted group reminisces about their past experiences. As James's condition deteriorates, he begins to deliriously ramble. Lauren, unable to bear the inaction any longer, decides to swim away in search of help on the shore. Meanwhile, Sarah's crying over the radio continues to disturb everyone. Emily tries to soothe the baby through the radio, but her efforts is of no use. As darkness sets in, Emily is left alone on the water with James, who intermittently loses consciousness and complains of a headache. As the rain starts pouring down, James quietly passes away. Emily is overcome with grief and screams in agony. Emily eventually comes to terms with her husband's death and says goodbye while humming the lullaby they sang to their daughter. Now only Emily and Johnny are alive. As the storm grows in intensity, their chances of survival seem increasingly slim. Johnny, feeling helpless, slams his goggles against the stern of the boat with frustration. After the goggles shatter, Johnny uses the remaining glass to wedge it between the board and the folding gangway, and grips it tightly with his hand. He calls out to Emily, who attempts to climb aboard the boat using Johnny's hand as a foothold. Johnny struggles to maintain his grip on the glass, wincing in pain each time Emily steps on his arm. Despite the heavy rain causing her hand to slip, Emily continues to try and grab hold of the board. Johnny, overwhelmed with emotion, laughs and shouts for joy. Emily lowers the gangway and rushes into the cabin to comfort her crying daughter. Meanwhile, Johnny clings to the gangway but hesitates. He is now faced with a difficult choice: to save himself or accept responsibility for the tragedy that happened due to his actions. Emily holds Sarah close to her and lies down next to her, relieved that the ordeal is finally over. However, her relief is short-lived as she realizes that Johnny is missing. She steps out onto the deck and spots a lone life jacket floating in the water. She realizes that her own guilt has led Johnny to decide to drown himself, bringing back memories of her father's drowning when she was young. Determined to prevent another tragedy, Emily overcomes her fear of water and jumps in to rescue Johnny. Although he sinks below the surface, Emily tries her best to retrieve him. As morning arrives, a fishing boat approaches the yacht, and the fisherman swims around the empty vessel, trying to communicate with the passengers. After receiving no response, the fishing boat departs. Sarah wakes up in the cabin and starts to cry. In the final scene, we see Emily on the deck, gazing into the distance. Johnny is lying unconscious at her feet, whom she succeeded in rescuing. Emily and Johnny are alive and can now go back home.